Hi. So if you're not aware, I'm kind of currently trying to pack up my studio and all my work bits because we're moving house. I'm finding it quite hard because it's like we don't know when we're moving. So what I am doing is kind of leaving out some little projects just to do. I'm just kind of trying to leave stuff out that's like really nice and fun to do and I can kind of do in a day. So today I'm going to be making a really cute like button bum bag. Before, when I made a pink one, a blue one and a purple one. So I think today I'm going to make a green one, and I think they look really nice when they're a kind of ombre going from white to whatever colour, so green. Right, I'm just going to get an array of threads. I've got a couple of whites and then I'm going to get a light green, a medium green, a khaki, that'll do. The threads that I'm choosing are like hand sewing threads. Basically you can tell because they're a little bit thicker. If you get these ones like the Coats ones, they say Tray Kirchy rather than like Epic or Moon. Like usually when something's on a bit of a smaller reel like that, it's hand sewing thread. Okay then, so what I've done is I have cut out, I'm using my bumbag pattern, sewing pattern by the way, which I will put a link to and it's on my Etsy. And I've cut out all the pieces of that from, I had like a bit left over from this pair of jeans that I've been using before. And what I've done is this is the back piece and the two sides I've cut kind of the right way around, so using, you know, the dark side of the denim. And then because I wanted the buttons to stand out a little bit more, I flipped it and used the underside, which is much lighter. So these pieces have just got like standard interfacing on the back. I cut the pattern out of interfacing first and then I just stick them onto the jeans and cut it out after. And then the pieces that I'm going to put the buttons on are the two like front pieces, so the top and the bottom. And so these pieces I've cut out in light, and I've also used some kind of iron-on bondina and stuck a piece of felt to the back because, I don't know, it just feels right and I feel like it creates a nice kind of slightly cushioned bit for me to sew the buttons on. And it's going to provide a nice bit of shape. So I can actually put the side and the back pieces aside for now. These buttons are just from all over the place. Like these ones, I found a whole box of them in a charity shop. I just love like old buttons and I always like to pick them up when I see them. Oh, that's cute. He's definitely got to go in. What I'm going to do is start off, I don't know, like maybe in one corner up here or down here and go like from dark green, dark, medium, light to white is what I'm going to roughly aim for. So I'm going to start in this corner, start with some darks. So this is how I learnt to sew buttons on when I was working in the theatre. So I kind of get a length of thread that's as long as my arms go. Fold that in half so I get the two ends together like that, and then thread those two ends through the needle and then pull them up to meet the other end. So I end up with like 4 threads because I'll knot that off now. So I've actually got 4 threads coming out there and that's what I'm going to use. It's going to be nice and strong. Okay, so I'm going to look for the darkest ones I can. I actually think as well, obviously, like I'm going to avoid the really big ones because I don't think they look as good, especially on a small item. Oh yeah, so I will be using a 1 centimetre seam allowance that's included in the pattern. I'm definitely going to make sure I'm like 1 and a bit centimetres in from the edge at all times. Okay, Good thing about also making your thread kind of quadrupled up like this is that it makes it quite short. So you can actually, by the time you've sewn buttons on, you can probably only do about 3 with each strand, which is good because then you know that if any, gets caught on something and threatens to fall off, literally a maximum of 3 can kind of come off with that rather than the whole thing falling apart. Each time I'm going through the holes like 3 times so they're on really kind of tight and secure. Okay, so this is kind of like my dark green corner, and I'm moving on to trying to gradually go into the medium greens. So yeah, I've realised there's a few other benefits to adding something like this felt to the back, because it means, like, for example, when I want to finish my thread and kind of knot off, as it were, I'm just doing 3 kind of tight stitches like that, 3 or 4, till it feels, strong, like that, in the same place. And having this felt just gives it, you've got something good to kind of grip into there. What I'm trying to do is kind of leave this same amount of gap around each one. Obviously it's quite hard because they're all different shapes and sizes, but that's kind of like what I'm aiming for. And yeah, so another thing that I do is once I've sewn one on 3 times, I want to move to the next bit. I'll just kind of loosely like pull my thread over to the next area, and then just do a little stitch, just so that when I sew the button on, it's not going to kind of pull that bit to that bit. But with this like felt anyway, it does give a bit of stiffness, which does kind of stop that, which is good. I'm actually so happy I chose to do this today. It's a nice little project, like so much fun and very relaxing. I feel like everything's been a bit up in the air recently. I'll have to stop in a minute because it's kind of, I think it's getting up to 5 o'clock maybe, but bear in mind, I think I did start this at about 3 p.m, so it's not taken me a whole day to do this. It's actually sewing the buttons on, especially because this is small, it actually doesn't take that long. What takes a long time is kind of your like scrutinizing of each button to kind of get one that's the right shape and colour for what you're aiming for. Although, obviously I'm going for a bit of an ombre olay effect here, but like you can just do whatever you want really. And there's this design I did once, let me get the denim, just to kind of give you an idea of what other kind of things you can do. One time I just took some yellow buttons and white ones, and then, like, obviously imagine this is a bum bag, although it looks pretty cute on a pocket. I just kind of sewed a few on like that here and there in a daisy design, and that, obviously it didn't take that long, and it was really effective. So you could use any colour buttons, you could do like different colour flowers. Oh, I want to make one of them now. Oh, I tell you, these were a find. I mean, you can only imagine the joy when I stumbled across these. But yeah, carrying on with this one for now. As you can see, I'm doing the bottom. I'm going to complete the bottom first. Oh, my teddy bear. Okay, I'll have to put that on the top. I put it to the side so that I could remember it, and that obviously made me forget it. Let's clip you to there. But yeah, so I'm doing the bottom first, because then when I come to do the top, I can kind of match it up so that it blends in. Good morning. Back to finish this. So here's where I'm up to. I always think this, but I always kind of think, oh, I've kind of done too much of each colour, because now I've not left that much room for like the lights and whites, and actually, surprisingly, the whites are kind of the best bit. I also cut out another one in denim last night in case I feel like doing one of those daisy or flower designs, so we'll see how it goes. I had hoped to sit outside and do this, but it's a bit of a passata outside. Okay, so here I am, so I'm just going to kind of really get onto the whites from here. I don't really like using these ones as much because they tend to sit a bit proud, do you know what I mean, and kind of wobble around a bit. When you start to add these like pearly kind of ones, that's when it starts to really look quite mermaidy. Hopefully one of my kids is going to want to dress up as a mermaid one day. So what I'm doing with the top bit, when I'm doing the top bit, is because I've got these notches in the middle, and just make sure it's kind of matching up with what's going on the bottom. So there's the kind of light bit. We're kind of going to be moving on to a bit more of the light greens here, so I can start merging into that. But yeah, just checking it every now and again, making sure it's going to match up. Okay, nearly finished. I love how they feel. I've just left a tiny little gap here for this little man. There's the bottom, got the top. I might do one of those daisy ones quickly as well before I have lunch. So the underside's looking a little bit like that. There's that. This is what I've cut out for the lining fabrics, quite nice. Okay, so what I would do with this, if I was doing like a flower one, which I am, so what I am doing is I'm going to kind of lay out my design first and then mark where each button goes with a pencil. So like, yeah, something like that. Very simple, but I think it looks nice. And then I think, to be honest, I'm just going to mark where the yellow ones go. And then when I sew them on, I can kind of, do you know what I mean, work out the whites from there. There we go. And these are going to take so much less time to sew on because you literally already know what you're sewing on. So this is like a nice one actually to do kind of an evening when you're sitting in front of the TV. Okay, what I am doing is how the buttons have got two holes. I'm kind of making sure they're all facing the same way from the, whatever the middle part of the flower is called. I think I should actually go and put the kettle on and have a cup of tea whilst I'm doing this. So there's those two pieces. I think they look really kind of cute. And that, to sew these buttons on this time, these just took me 1 hour. So that's like your evening TV slot sorted. So I'm going to sew it all together now. I'm going to be using a zipper foot to sew the whole thing so that I can, you know, get close to the buttons. So here I am just kind of constructing the bumbag. I do have, if you are interested in actually making one of these, like a proper video tutorial, I thought now actually I would just show you a few pictures of this really cool backpack that I made. It must have been like a year ago, but like completely covered in buttons. The only reason I made this was like 1 week my son got ill, and so the bags that I'd wanted to make I couldn't. So what I did that week was with a pair of white jeans I cut out kind of all of the pieces for a backpack, and then whenever he had a nap I just silently sewed buttons on. I've got to say I was pretty happy with the results. It's just one of those things I never would have done if it hadn't happened like that, because I mean it obviously it took, you know, absolutely ages. So in terms of a business move, perhaps probably not the best, but it's nice to just have those times when you've got no pressure and you can just like create. Anyway, yeah, so this is my button backpack from last year. So here's my two bum bags just to turn inside out now. I've actually got a favourite, which I feel like is I feel like that's a bit wrong. So here's the green one finished. They really do feel so nice. What I would say about this is, I know I was saying, oh, they're actually really easy, like, and sewing on the buttons is easy, and making a bum bag from this pattern is easy, but where I really went quite close to the seam allowance, I would say that probably makes it a bit trickier. I actually on this probably ended up doing about like a just over ½ centimetre seam allowance. But luckily this bum bag pattern is actually very forgiving with that kind of thing. So, but yeah, quite a statement, I think. Okay, so here's the other one. Gotta give this seams like a really good kind of stretch and press with your hands, because it's hard to iron, a bit harder to iron when they've got buttons on. So there's the Daisy one. This is the one that's actually my favourite. I guess it's funny because it takes a lot less time to do that than that, but they're both nice. I like the contrast of the denim as well, that's nice. I just think that would be a really cute like gift if you were to make for someone as well, because it's kind of like, you could actually do all of this, sew these buttons on like in an evening, so it's not really, but it just looks like you've really made the effort. So yeah, I like that. And so basically what I would say if I was making it and wanted it to be easier is to actually leave maybe 2 centimetres around the edge, you know, like I left 1 centimetre but kind of dipped into it from time to time as well. So yeah, but yeah, I've just got no idea how much I'm going to be able to make over the next few months for that reason. So if anyone does make anything, like honestly, I'd really love to see it. I've had this idea actually floating around my brain for months, absolutely months. So basically what I want to do is like a roll top rucksack and get some kind of white fabric and dip dye. So just to like show you the shape, obviously, so it would all be white fabric, and then I would dip dye all of the pieces so that they were like dark blue down here, going up to blue and then up to white, just leave the white, and then echo that with the buttons, so dark blue, la-di-da, going up to white. I think it'd be like real ocean feel bag. I think that would be really pretty. You know, when and if that'll happen, we'll see. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching if you've got this far, and hopefully see you soon. Hopefully I'll have like a moving studio video to show you. Bye.